Hi, in this video we're going to go over free and low-cost subscription sources for Massachusetts case law. Before we get started visiting a few of these sources, I wanted to talk about the exhibits that you probably saw when you did your reading in the Handbook of Legal Research in Massachusetts. I'm looking at Exhibit 4C, and what you can see is that it gives a list of publishers or vendors that have case decisions particular to, in this case, the Supreme Judicial Court, although there are other exhibits for the other Massachusetts courts. And you can see it gives helpful information such as what's the date of the coverage, what's the medium, how can you search this database, and does this database have a citator? So the reason I'm showing you this is we're not going to be able to have the time to go over all the different sources for Massachusetts case law. So I wanted to show you a source where you could go to find out other sources that might have cases either at the SJC level, the appeals court, the trial court. There's different exhibits for the different Mass courts. And again, this is from the Handbook of Legal Research in Massachusetts. I'm looking at it on Bloomberg Law, and the reason I did that is because when we look at these treatises on Bloomberg Law, we're looking at them just like we would look in the book. So for that reason, these exhibits render a lot better on Bloomberg Law. Okay, so let's look at a few of these sources. The first source I want to talk about is Google Scholar. I'm sure a lot of you have used this to find cases in the past, but I want to talk just a little bit about the features in case you're not as familiar. The first thing I want to point out is this link down here to an About page. That gives you some information about what's covered in Google Scholar and how to search Google Scholar. So let's take a quick look at that. So once you're in the About page, click Search. And the things that I want you to look at here are the searching link, which gives you some information about how to search for things on Google Scholar, like how to search for court opinions, and the coverage link. And in the coverage link, it gives you information about what's covered in Google Scholar, including which court opinions are included. So this is important when you're working with a database you're not as familiar with. Sometimes when you run a search and you don't get any responsive results, it's not because your search is bad, but because the database doesn't have coverage of the materials you're looking for. So for example, on Google Scholar, it covers opinions of state appellate and Supreme Court cases, but not trial court. So that would be kind of important information, right? Okay. So let's go back to Google Scholar and we'll run a quick search. The first thing I want to do is pick case law and select Massachusetts. And this is another place where I could see the coverage, not the dates, but I can at least see what courts, the appeals and the SJC court. I'm going to pick both. And then I'm going to run a very simple search. As Rick pointed out, I don't have to be as worried about running up a bill here because it's a free search engine. And you can see that I ran a search for medicine practice midwife, and the first search result is the one that we've been looking at on Lexis and Westlaw. Let's take a quick look at it here. And a couple things I want to show you. You get the official Mass citation, the parallel citation to the regional reporter, but then you don't get all those editorial information that you get on Lexis or Westlaw, the synopsis and the headnotes that we saw. And that's because this is a free service, right? So when we're paying up for Lexis or Westlaw, we get those extra editorial features. When we're looking at it in a free source, it's great, it's free, but what we're getting basically is the text of the opinion. There is a very basic citator service. It's right here where it says how cited. And you can see we're not getting a flag treatment or anything, but we are getting cases and other related documents that have cited this case, and we're also getting a sort of basic depth of treatment analysis here with these little lines. One other thing I want to mention before we leave Google Scholar is that Rick mentioned in his statutes video that you could run a simple search, for example, for a statute to see cases that have cited to the statute in a database like Google Scholar. So making your own statutory citator. And this is where you would do this. You'd put your statute in here and run it in Mass cases to see the Mass cases that have cited to your statute. The one tricky thing will be how to make sure that you're getting the format that the court cites to the statute in. Okay, so that was Google Scholar. The next free place I want to take you to is the Social Law Library, the public side of the Social Law Library. So I'm in the Social Law Library, and I got to these slip opinions by clicking on Services and then picking Slip Opinions. And once I'm here, I can see that they have slip opinions for the Appeals Court, the SJC, and the Superior Court. And they go back maybe a year and a half. And this is on just the free Google Social Law Library, the basic Social Law Library site. And as I said, from the home page, you pick Services, Slip Opinions. So these are available for free, but they don't go too far back. I'm going to show you when we go to the law school research databases, we have access to a subscription service offered as well by Social Law Library, which offers a much broader coverage. Okay, so those were the two free sources. Now let's look at the law school research databases page at a couple of lower cost subscription sources. So I'm on the Law School Research Databases page, and this is my breadcrumb trail. I went from the Law Library page, I chose Research, and then Law School Research Databases. I'm going to take a look at two databases, FastCase, and as I mentioned, the Social Law Library subscription databases. Before we look at that, I just want to mention this source here, the Mass Lawyers Weekly. Because we only have in-library use, we're not going to be using it in this class, but it's a great source to keep current on what's going on. And one of the ways that they have sort of current information is to give some description of some of the cases that are happening in the trial court. So you might get a synopsis of a Superior Court opinion, not the opinion itself in the actual Mass Lawyers Weekly, but a synopsis. So this can be another source to look for trial court decisions. Okay, so let's look at FastCase first. So FastCase is a lower cost subscription database that you as a student have access to through our Law Library databases page. But you may also have access to this at work, or if you choose to become a member of the Massachusetts Bar Association, you'll have access to this database through your Bar Association membership, which is why I wanted you to see it. And before we switch to an advanced case law search, which we'll do in just a minute, I wanted to point out these help options here. So if this is a database that you end up using a lot in practice, there are some great user guides and tutorials here that I would suggest you take a look at. Okay, let's take a look at the advanced case law search. So the reason that I'm suggesting using the advanced case law rather than the quick search is when you get to this page, you have a lot more options. So you can do a keyword search, which is a Boolean search, a natural language search or search by citation. And when you get to this page, you also have an indication here of what search syntax is possible in this database. So based on these descriptions, I'm going to create a really simple search. I'm going to say medicine, and within 5 of practice, I'm going to add and midwife, but with an asterisk, which is our root expander, and we're going to run that search. Okay, and you can see again, I'm getting my Lee versus Board of Registration case, and a couple of things here. There are some additional search features. For example, they do have a search within feature and a citator, a very basic citator called authority check. So I just went into the opinion, and you can see again, just like when we were on Google Scholar, we're getting the citation, the parallel citation, but mostly there's no editorial features. We're just getting the text of the opinion. We do have at the top the ability to click into that authority check, but again, it's a more basic database. So that's FastCase, and there are other materials here as well that could be useful, statutes, regulations, that type of thing. Let's now look at the Social Law Library databases, but the subscription side. To get to the subscription materials for the Social Law Library databases, you're going to want to go through the Law Library databases page. When you get to that page, you'll see two columns, one that has the court opinions, including some trial court opinions, which are hard to get to on other databases, or not available on other databases, I should say. So that's one reason we like this database. You'll also see on the right some administrative agency materials, also another category of materials that's hard to get to, or not available, I should say, on other databases. So there's two reasons you might end up using this. One is it's if your law firm has a subscription to it through the social law library, it could be a lot less expensive than Lexis or Westlaw. And the other thing is because of coverage. It might have coverage that's not available on Lexis or Westlaw. So let's look just briefly at the Superior Court opinions. So because this video is getting kind of long, I'm not going to run a search, but I want to point out a couple of features here. One is when you get into this database right away, you're going to see what the coverage is, which is great. You have your help features here, which if you click into, you're able to get to some search syntax help, which is really valuable on this database because it's not intuitive. The next thing I want to point out is that the field where you have to put your search text in is down here, not at the top, so that can be a little confusing. It's not a very robust search engine. It's a little bit harder to get good results, I would say. So if you have your party name or your justice or a docket number, it's really good. The full text search is a little bit, as I said, not too robust. So if you did want to look at that search help, it's right here. I'll show you how to get to it. And where you want to go to is the under the red links, the last one, the quick reference guide. And this will give you that search syntax quick reference guide as well as some searching tips. Okay, so that's it for our video on free and lower cost alternatives.